The Dodgers promoted Dalton Rushing. Let's discuss on Fantasy Baseball Today Express. Welcome into FBT Express on Thursday, May 15th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White. We'll get to the top prospects to stash in just a bit. But first up, Scott, the Dodgers have promoted Dalton Rushing, their top catcher prospect, which normally we'd be very excited about for fantasy, except it sounds like he's only going to play a couple times per week. So do we add him anywhere? What do we do?
Boy, I mean, he was one of the 5 prospects to stash a week ago, and now it hardly seems worth it with this news. At first, it came out from Dave Roberts, the manager, that no, we don't plan to use him in the outfield at all, just backup catcher. And I was like, is that Roberts speaking on his own terms? Have they really talked it through yet? And that's what they're expecting. But then the GM said the same thing. They don't want Rushing to be brought up as like a utility type player. They want him to focus on catching. So he's going to be a true backup who starts just a couple times a week and also pinch hits. And if they're sincere about that, if they're sincere about not wanting to use him at other positions, then I don't see the opportunity. Like, a lot of times we'd say, oh, but if he hits well enough, he'll find his way into more playing time. There's not an opportunity for that. Obviously, DH spot is taken, and Will Smith, he's locked up through 2033. So I don't even know long-term how this is supposed to work, Rushing as just a catcher with Will Smith tied up for that long. It feels like a malpractice, frankly, given how good of a hitter he could be. Great on base skills, good power potential. I have a hard time believing they're sincere, to be perfectly honest. But if we take them at their word, then I think Rushing is bottom. Even in 2 catcher leagues, he's kind of just a flyer and gambling on upside.
All right, let's take a look at those top prospects to stash right now. Bubba Chandler of the Pirates, Roman Anthony and Marcelo Meyer of the Red Sox, Jack Caglione of the Royals, and Jacob Misiorowski of the Brewers. Scott, 1 week ago, we thought Bubba Chandler would be here already. What do we think now?
So that very night we were talking about that, he ended up having his one bad start where he gave up 3 earned runs, 5 hits, 4 walks, and just 2 2/3 innings. So understandably, that delayed his arrival a bit. He has followed up that start with another great one, struck out 8 over 5 shutout innings, and got to, 86 pitches in that start. So now he's 11 more than the highest pitch count that Paul Skeens reached before debuting last year. And he's proven that the bad start was just a one-off, so he may have made his last start at AAA. Can't say for sure, but that seems more likely than not. So Bubba Chandler remains the top prospect to stash here. Otherwise, it's been a clearing of the deck. Yeah, Roman Anthony is still on here, but since a week ago, we've had Dalton Rushing get called up. We've had Logan Henderson get called up. We've had Jordan Lawler get called up. So now we get 3 new names here in the 5 on the verge: Marcelo Meyer, Jack Caglione, and Jacob Misiorowski. Let's start with Meyer. I think there's a chance he comes up before Anthony, actually. The power production has picked up this year. It was kind of restrained the past couple years by injuries, but we're talking about a player who, since he was drafted 4th overall in 2021, has been regarded as a very high-end prospect, and he's performing up to those expectations. I think the reason why Meyer could beat Anthony to the majors is it's almost certainly going to take an injury for Anthony to make it up, an injury to an outfielder or to Rafael Devers himself. Since Devers isn't going to first base, one of the outfielders of the DH has to get hurt to bring up Anthony. It may not take an injury for Marcelo Meyer because Trevor Story has kind of crashed and burned here after a hot start and after 3 injury-plagued seasons. You look at the underlying data. I'm not sure, we can be sure, Story has anything left. So Meyer just might end up replacing him at some point. I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow, but it's enough of a possibility that he's now in the 5 on the verge. Jack Caglione still has yet to reach AAA. So I don't know that he's coming up tomorrow either. But part of the 5 on the verge is how impactful they're going to be. It's not just about how close they are to reaching the majors. It's whether the impact is going to be high enough that they're worth stashing it out of time. And I think in Caglione's case, that's absolutely true. No player in professional baseball, majors or minors, has hit a ball harder than he has this year. 120.9 miles per hour. In fact, in StatCast history, that's only been topped 5 times. And it's hardly out of character for Caglione. He just kills the ball. Low strikeout rate, too. Last 22 games. Low strikeout rate is probably exaggerating, but it's less than 25%. Really good for a power hitter like him. Last 22 games at AA Northwest Arkansas, Caglione has hit .393 with 6 homers and like an 1150 OPS. So he's ready to move up somewhere. Presumably it'll be AAA. I don't think it's a certainty it'll be AAA. Prospects of his caliber often make the leap straight from AA. He's been playing some outfield. The Royals are contenders with no good outfielders. I think it's possible. Even if he does go to AAA, that's the likelier scenario. It may just be a layover, on his way to the majors. I think it's time to stash Caglione if you have that kind of roster space. And then finally, Jacob Misiorowski. He reached 102.3 miles per hour in his latest start. That's the hardest pitch thrown, majors or minors, this year. But we always knew he could throw hard. The big thing here for Misiorowski is throwing strikes a lot more. It was only 59% rate last year. That's bad. 66% in his last 4 starts at AAA. That's good. This led to a .38 ERA, .72 whip, 12.5 K per 9. And by the way, the Brewers rotation is in a pretty sad state right now with Brandon Woodruff's return delayed by an ankle injury, and Jose Quintana suffering a shoulder injury, and Tobias Myers kind of pitching himself out of the mix, and Quinn Priester maybe not deserving a spot anymore either. Logan Henderson's already up. Misiorowski could be close behind with as many strikes as he's throwing now.
All right, let's take a quick break, and we'll be back right after this. Welcome back in FBT Express. 5 prospects on the periphery. These are some names that are making noise lately. And Jonah Tong of the Mets, Braden Montgomery of the White Sox, J.R. Ritchie of the Braves, Mike Sirota of the Dodgers, and Arun Escobar from the Phillies.
We're going to skip over Braden Montgomery because we talked about him 3 weeks ago. Bottom line, he has moved up to high A and is continuing to crush it there. So totally living up to expectations as the 12th pick last year and a big piece in the Garrett Crochet deal. Jonah Tong, let's talk about him. He just had at AA what's going to be one of the best minor league starts of the year. 6 2/3 perfect innings with 13 strikeouts. And now Jonah Tong's K per 9 rate at AA is 16.4. So, fascinating pitcher here. Very over-the-top delivery, but gets that rise effect from the fastball anyway. A lot of times you got to drop the arm angle to get it. He does it from a very high arm angle, and hitters just have a tough time with that fastball. You see it in the numbers. You saw it in the numbers last year too, but now it's showing up at a high level for Jonah Tong, high level of the minors. So becoming more and more of a dynasty asset with each passing start. J.R. Ritchie of the Braves, he had a start that's going to be one of the best of the minor league season too, because it was a complete game shutout. He allowed just 1 hit, 9 strikeouts in those 9 innings. And that's kind of been J.R. Ritchie has been pitching well at high A all season, but he's a 21-year-old at high A. and he's averaging less than a strikeout per inning. So I'm not totally sold on it. It's obviously a great start. It's getting him moved up to Double-A. It'll be interesting to see how J.R. Ritchie performs there. But I think his success at high A was largely driven by him being a pretty good strike thrower with a really deep arsenal, and hitters at that level just aren't ready for that sort of thing. But low to mid 90s fastball, not that impressive with the velocity. We'll see how it goes for J.R. Ritchie at Double-A, but I'm kind of skeptical in spite of the numbers. The Dodgers outfielder, did we determine how to pronounce his name? Mike
Sirota?
That's phonetic anyway. They may have done it again, the Dodgers, always fleecing these teams in trades. They got Zahir Hope from the Cubs in the Michael Busch deal last year, and they got this guy, Mike Sirota, from the Reds in the Gavin Lux deal. 3rd-round pick last year. But they say that prior to his junior season, they had him as a first-rounder. The Dodgers did, Mike Sirota, and his numbers at low A were incredible. He's moving up to high A. We'll see if the Dodgers did it again, but a name to know in dynasty leagues. And finally, Arun Escobar. He's been getting a lot of buzz here, second baseman for the Phillies, 20 years old at low A. So, a lot to sort out here still, but he's always had good strike zone judgment and has been hitting the ball harder last year, been hitting home runs. Cousin of Ronald Acuna is Arun Escobar, and seems like a name on the rise for all the prospect gurus out there.
All right. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to our full-length podcast, Fantasy Baseball Today, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today Express, and we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.